I'm going to give you all an offer that you cannot refuse. Currently, I'm in your country. I'm looking for help back at my business in the United States. This is ideal for you because you've been looking for a way out of your country for a long time now. You want to be paid more. Well, what if I told you not only I could pay for your transportation and your documentation fees, but I could also pay for your room and board back in the United States? This sounds way too good to be true, doesn't it? That's because it is. This is a ploy used by human traffickers to attract foreign work into the United States. My name is Laura, and today we're going to be talking about the unseen reality of human trafficking. Now, as somebody who's studied this topic for a little over 2 years now, it's something I'm really passionate about, and I'm really excited you guys are here to learn about it. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the United States as a destination country, as in where work is being brought. We're going to talk about how it affects the lives of those trafficked here, and as well as how you can stay aware of what's happening around you. But before we get into all this, we need to define exactly what human trafficking is. Human trafficking is modern-day slavery. It is the illegal transportation of a group of people into an area or another country, usually for the purposes of sexual exploitation or forced labor. Now, these are not the only reason that people are trafficked into other areas and other countries, but they're the main overarching broad topics that we'll be talking about. So according to the International Labor Organization, 43 million people are in modern-day slavery. 24.9 million are in forced labor. 16.7 million are exploited in the private economy, which would be like domestic work. And 4.8 million are forced into sexual exploitation, which means that 5.4 out of every 1,000 people is a victim of human trafficking. I just want that to settle for a quick second. That is an astounding number of people, and these are our people. And what are they exploited for? Today, shopping is a mindless task. We no longer ask where our products are being made and who is making them. We create a ripe atmosphere for human trafficking because of our demand for cheap labor, and thus it is illegally supplied. So in the United States, there are 3 visas that people use to traffic people here. There's the H-1B, the H-2A, and the H-2B. Now, according to Stephanie Hepburn, who's the author of Human Trafficking Around Us, Hidden in Plain Sight, the H-2B is the most problematic visa. This is because it is on a seasonal basis, which means once you no longer work for your employer who signed your documentation, you are officially an illegal immigrant on US soil, whether you like it or not. Now, this is a big problem. This is where the conversation of legal versus illegal immigration blurs out the idea and the topic of human trafficking. In the words of Susan B. Seltzer, who is a partner of Glasgow Stock & Company, she says, "No one is raiding a factory looking for trafficking victims. They are looking for illegal immigrants." Now let's go back to what I told you guys earlier. I told you how I could pay for your documentation and your transportation. It was all super great. I actually lied. There's a lot more that you have to pay back. I was off by a couple $1,000s, and your visa's running out. With the small wage that I've given you, there is no way that you can possibly pay me back by the time your visa runs out. Thus, you are tied to me and to the country through debt bondage. You have a lot of money to pay back, and you will not be leaving until it is all paid in full. Not only does this happen to the victims, but they are also constantly displaced. They are never comfortable where they are because they are always moved. They don't want to be found. So in 2005, the area of New Orleans was devastated by Hurricane Katrina. Now, officials from Thailand were trafficked through North Carolina into the New Orleans area, where they were forced to stay in buildings that looked like this and work in buildings that looked like this. They had no running water and no electricity. If they did have water, it was highly contaminated and they should not have been drinking it. The victims told stories of having to catch birds outside of their windows because they were not fed. This doesn't even scrape the surface of the mental and physical abuse that happens to the people trafficked here into any other country on a daily basis. And what were they exploited for? For our demand for cheap products and cheap labor. Now, how can you stay aware of this? Since we are the problem, that also gives us a large amount of power because we can also change the way people see labor. We need to stay mindful of where we shop. These are just a couple of brands that have been called out for poor working conditions, but do your research on your brands. If you start asking questions, people aren't going to do things that are shady. If you start asking questions, people aren't going to be trafficking in cheap work, in cheap labor. So in conclusion, today we talked about the United States is a large destination country, and it affects the lives of consumers and laborers as well as how you can stay aware. Thank you.